Hey everybody, how you doing? Eric Worrell here with RunPrep.com, and we are doing a live interview today. Having a little bit of pixelation on the face, maybe a little bit of audio coming in, a little funny. Let us know in the comments if it's working out all right for you. But I'm very honored today to be talking with Matt Faircloth, the author of Raising Private Capital. So, Matt, how are you doing today?
I am great. I'm great. Thank you so much. It's awesome to be here.
Thank you for being here. So I was really excited about the opportunity to interview BiggerPockets. They do a ton of different books that they publish, and yours just came out within the last year, right?
Yeah, this summer it came out in July.
Yeah. And give us a little bit of background on your situation, what you do, why you're kind of an expert when it comes to raising private capital.
Well, I'm still learning. I've just done a lot of it, but I think it's a evolving space. So I wouldn't call myself an expert, but I've just say it's something I've done quite a bit of, and I've learned a lot on the road of going through what I've done. But my full-time gig is I'm a real estate investor. You know, we do fix and flips, we do rentals, we do some things called turnkeys. So a couple of different angles in real estate, and I do a lot of what I do with private capital with other people's money that either want to partner with us, invest with us, make a flat rate of return on their money through a loan to us. So we're structured. We've structured our business around what we think to be the needs of those that invest with us.
Okay. And
Yeah.
you probably don't want to toot your own horn, but you've been doing this a while. I know that you've done over $30 million in real estate transactions involving private loans, private equity, right?
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
done 30. We've done over 30 million in transactions involving some sort of private capital. We're closing on an apartment building purchase in a couple of weeks, and that'll bring it up to about 35 million worth of transactions involving some sort of private money. But we also do small stuff too. Like I'm renovating a $50,000 duplex right now, so we're not just in the stratosphere only. We've found outlets across the board that work for private money. And that. So yeah, we've done a big stuff and small stuff.
So I'm curious because I'm sure people are wondering, you're from kind of the PA, Trenton, New Jersey, that area, right?
Yeah, my office is in Trenton. I used to live in South Jersey. My wife and I just moved with our family to Pennsylvania, so we just jumped across the river. But I work in Trenton almost every day. It was where my office building is.
Okay. And most of your deals then, are they kind of regional or do you stay in your area?
We used to. It's funny. I wrote an article for BiggerPockets a couple of years ago about how I would only do a deal, but 30 minutes from my office.
Mm.
And we've so changed that model because we found the benefits of property management. So I've evolved in going from in-house management to having someone else manage almost all of my stuff. And I think that a good property manager is such a key to this business. Although I'm grateful that I did it myself for years because I've learned a lot about it. So that good property managers have allowed me to expand into North Carolina, Central Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, also deeper into New Jersey, and soon to be Kentucky.
All right. Very nice. Would you say that bringing property managers in, is it pretty much about scalability? Is that why you did that?
Yeah, well, we got to the point where I decided, like, do I want to build a management company that's able to support where I want to go as a business and where I think my investors want to ride along with us to go? Can I build a management company to do that? Or should I just find some really great, not good, but great property managers that can manage the assets that I want to work on with my investors? Um, for a long time, I thought that it was the former. Like I'm going to build a management company. And over years, in experiencing it, I realized that just you've got to have a really big management company for it to make sense and for it to be profitable. And so we then started hiring third-party managers, and I'm grateful that we did that because it's allowed us to scale.
Okay. Well, what I'd like to do now is kind of go over the basics of your book. I mean, if somebody really wants to get into it, there's a lot you can learn about raising private capital. But we kind of got a
Thank you.
short agenda, and I'm going to pull that up right now. And starting with real basics, I know I told you before we got on the call here, I am so wet behind the ears when it comes to this topic. So if anyone's got a dumb question, I'll ask it for you. I don't know a ton about it. Kind
I
of
got your back. It's okay.
okay.
Yeah, it's not anywhere near as complicated as people make it out to be.
Yeah.
The topic of raising money.
To be honest, like before reading your book, my opinion of private capital investors, and I see them out sometimes, I'll be at a coffee shop and I can tell they're having a meeting or something. I'm kind of like, eh. And then
Right.
after reading your book, I'm like, okay, I get it. It's just another investment vehicle. And these people aren't selling, something door to door that they're going to be gone in the next city next week. So,
No. Well, there's plenty of shysters out in our business, unfortunately, that are out presenting real estate deals that are not actually what they present them to be. But for every one of them, there's 100 very real estate investors with plenty of integrity that are willing to put other people's money to work in their business and do the right thing with it. So
yeah.
um,
So for somebody who's not familiar with the topic, how would you define private capital?
It's just other people's money at work in your business, either as a loan or as a partnership. So, I mean, to define it real simply, that's what it is other people's money at work. And with where you're doing the work and they're doing their money is working for them in your business, and you're doing the legwork, the day-to-day operations, and putting in a bit of sweat equity as your compensation for your side of the deal, whether that's through a loan or through an equity investment.
So in your book, you commonly refer to your position to be the deal provider, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
The
if
deal
we were going to
provider,
break
there's
down,
a deal provider and there's a cash provider. Yeah.
okay. So if we're talking and you present a deal to me and I'm going to present cash, whether that's through, just cash I have laying around, and we can talk about self-directed IRAs if it gets in that far in the weeds, but I'm the cash provider, you're the deal provider.
Yes.
So why would, let's say somebody wants to invest in real estate, like why do private capital versus the traditional bank route where you go get a loan from the bank? Like, what's the advantage?
Well, a lot of banks just won't touch certain deals, right? So banks, it's hard to get a bank to get involved in a renovation project or a project that requires a lot of construction, or to lend small amounts of money. Banks would love to lend you, millions of dollars or even a couple $100,000, but it's very hard to get a bank to lend you $50,000. And a lot of the markets that we as a company play in, and a lot of other real estate investors that I know of, are looking for a loan in the $50,000 to $100,000 range to go and buy a duplex or 2-family, 3-family, renovate it, and then rent it out. Right. It's very hard to get a bank to be willing to take a project that's that small seriously. On one hand, on the other hand, there's plenty of people out there that have $50,000 that would love to get a great return on their money and maybe be willing to make a little more than the 5% interest rate that a bank would want on their money. That maybe would be willing. Maybe you're willing to pay 8, 9, 10%. To that person. And so it's a great marriage in what they're looking for, because you're paying them a way better interest rate than what they would make with their money just sitting in a savings account. And they're able to make your projects work. That's on the lending side. And there's a whole other thing on equity, for people giving you money to be a part owner of a project with you, where there's no way you're going to get a bank to do that at all. So
Yeah. Speaking of like what percentage that you would pay in a deal, Tom Larson here, who actually runs a local real estate association here in the Buffalo, New York area, he was asking what's the most percentage you would pay in a deal. I mean, I'm sure it depends on what the deal is, but through your past and your history, what's the most that you've paid?
in interest rate.
Yeah.
I paid upwards of 12 when I first got started. We're now down into the mid single digit range, so like 8, 9, 10. Not even like the high single digits. That's what I pay. So I try and land around 8, like 8, 9. If I can get the interest rate down to 7, that's awesome. Negotiation or certain things that we can use as negotiators are, do we make monthly payments or not? Is there a limited, is there a minimum loan term that we agree to? Those kinds of things that are negotiable. And that, so I try and land around 7, 8, 9%, but I think that's just because we've been around for a while. For new investors, I don't know if Tom is a newer investor or a seasoned investor that's been around for a while. But either way, I've seen people be successful paying 12, 13, 14% for their deal. It all depends on how good the deal is. And you might need, I mean, when I first got started, I paid in that range, to hard money lenders, companies that were lending, very expensive money, but you know what? I made the deal work and the deal profited. So it was win-win.
Do you think that in the beginning you did that because you didn't have the track record or you didn't have the experience? Well,
Well, a little bit of both. The track record side, yes, because I didn't have a track record that I could display to bigger investors to say, hey, listen, this is why I'm a great bet, and this is why you should consider working with me. That's number one. Number two, I didn't have the contacts. I didn't know who to call or how to speak to them. I didn't think that I knew those people. Now that I've done this, I realize that those people with money are right around me, which I talk about that in the book at length, and that the people that have the money to invest in your business and loan to you are right in front of you.
Yeah.
And lastly, because of the experience side of it, yeah, it's about perhaps negotiating deals with potential private investors or private lenders that I didn't have at the time. So for a lot of those reasons, we were paying higher interest rates. And I think also the economy's changed a bit. That's become more of a competitive space. More and more people are finding out that they can loan their money to real estate investors with collateral, with a mortgage on their property, and with with protection, which Wall Street gives you none of that. So they can put their money at work in a secure real estate loan. And make a great return. And so I think that has driven down rates, I think.
Okay.
So.
We got a nice segue question that just came in. This is from, hopefully I'm saying your name right, Uesin Kim. What is the best way to meet / network with private capital? So I thought maybe that could segue us into the cash provider pyramid.
Sure. I think that we network. When I first got started, I joined a BNI group, which is like a networking organization. There's BNI, there's LaTip, there's those kinds of organizations. Those are great to network with people, with potential money providers. Actually, believe it or not, real estate investor meetings are great places to network with potential money partners too, because not only are there active investors, but cash providers go to those kinds of things too, because they're looking for a place to put their money. So that's another good spot. And I talk about this in the book at length, but I also just tell people this in general, that you really should just talk about what you do as a real estate investor with everyone you interact with, because you never know where that's going to come up. And so I think that, anybody that you talk to, just when they ask you what you do for a living, tell them I'm a real estate investor. And you never know. People might say something interesting that might lead to them being a potential cash provider for you.
Sure. Yeah, and I think you mentioned in the book that that's something that when you say it, you'd be surprised how many people's ears perk up, because they're like, I want to invest in real estate, but I don't have the time.
That's
So
you
that's a
don't know how
great
many people
segue
have
for
said
you.
that. It's like, geez, I sure wish I had the time to invest in real estate. And the immediate counter to that is, you know what? I have the time.
Yeah.
And I've got the time, the team, the experience, and the contacts and the documents and everything that it takes to put your money to work. And so you don't have to put in time. I'll put in the time,
So one of the things in your book that you talk about, you have a whole chapter on it, I believe, is where to find cash providers. And you talk about something called let's see if I get this on the screen here, right? Cash provider pyramid. I'll just do a little quick shot there. Can you explain exactly what that is?
Sure. So there's tier one, which is your core group of people, and that's where I recommend every investor. So every investor wants to start at tier 3, which is where you start screaming it from the mountaintop that you're looking for money, right? But what I recommend is that investors don't start there. They start at the bottom, which is their core group. And that could be, immediate family, that could be immediate friends, people that like and trust you because you're you and not because you're anyone else besides you. You are who you are, and they like and trust you because of that, not because of this long real estate track record that you have or anything like that. That's where I got started. It was with immediate friends, immediate family, and also putting my own capital to work in the properties, right? So that's tier 1, and then you move up to referrals. You can start networking and doing the BNI group thing or real estate networking groups, other networking organizations to meet people and everything like that, and try to expand your circles out that take you up to the referral level where people are referring you to people, and your tier 1 group, your core group, tends to expand to people that are just outside your friends and family circles. And then, if you're lucky and blessed enough, you end up expanding up into tier 3, where you really take it public. And there's a lot of ideas in the book on being what's called a thought leader. Like, we have a very active YouTube channel at the DeRosa Group, and we've been doing it for years, but that YouTube channel has generated people that are interested in working with us because we put a lot of real estate education out on YouTube. And so we've centered ourselves in the conversation of being around real estate. My wife has a podcast that's there for real estate investing for women. I have our YouTube channel. We blog for BiggerPockets, and a lot of those conversations have allowed us to take what we do on a public level, and it's been a great way to give back to people, but also it's been a great way to broadcast what we as a company are up to.
Yeah, and one of the things I love about your YouTube channel is it's not you going on there and saying, hey, you can invest with us, you can invest with us, you can invest with us. It's you giving education, giving updates on. So it's interesting to engage with, and that just keeps people watching you, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere,
we
you
just
probably
want
get
to
a phone call, right?
It's kind of like, Mark Zuckerberg and building Facebook. I mean, he was just looking to build a following, build a community of people that, wanted to be a part of what it is he was building. And that's it. It's about building a community of people that want to talk about real estate. That's what BiggerPockets is there for. That's why I'm really aligned with them, because they don't have any agenda aside from talking about real estate investing with a group of people. That's why we're great. That's why we love our YouTube channels, because that's what we do. But there's certain spin-offs that happen. If people are interested in hearing more about what specifically our company is up to, it's a great way to get the word out. And in that. So it's about having a non-agenda related conversation with people. That's what I really think being a thought leader is about. So it's not putting up a billboard this is what tier 3 is not. It's not this. It's not putting up a billboard that says you can invest with me because I'm awesome and because I can pay you a great return on your money. It's not that. It's about building enough rapport and doing real estate projects and building up enough street cred and business that you can have public conversations about what you do, just for the simple sake of educating people about what you do, not for broadcasting, that you're looking for investors.
Okay. So just to recap, Rohit, he'd asked if you're doing just a couple of rentals, how can one find private capital investors if you don't have much network of friends and family? For someone like that, you might recognize or recommend BNI or just your local landlord associations, real estate investing associations. Is there anything else besides that? You said BiggerPockets.
Well, Ronit's doing something right, because if you've seen that picture, he's getting into a Lamborghini there in that picture, which I love, and I'm a little totes jelly of that Lamborghini that he's getting into there. So, so let's just leave that there. Those must be nice, must be nice rentals he's got, because that's a phenomenal car. So, congrats. But I think that first of all, I would challenge what Ronit said about not having much network of friends and family, because I think that if you know how to look for it, and this gets into the self-directed IRA conversation, everyone knows people with money, because there's so much money swimming around in retirement accounts right now. And so I would push back with love on Ronit to say that you probably do know people with money. You're just not looking for it in the exact right places, nor do you know how to bridge those conversations on how to create relationships, putting retirement capital to work in your company. So that's the first response. And then I would say, like I said, join networking groups, find out what you're passionate about, right? If it's cars, all joking aside, maybe go on meetup.com and get into a car networking group about your personal passions, and then go to those circles and then just bring up what you're up to and get to know people, get to know their goals. That's the way you find there's unfortunately, you're not going to go on meetup.com and say, I'm looking for the passive investor meetup group. It's not that easy. There's not just some place you go to, passiveprivateinvestor.com and have just a whole list of people you can just call on, in that. You're going to have to get a little creative in creating relationships with people and talk about what you do and how what you do is awesome and how it can help people reach their wealth goals in working with you. So
to transition from Rohit's question here to Nathan. So Nathan sounds like he's a little more established and he manages 300 rentals, but the largest one is 16 units. He said that the largest I've owned is 11 units. Will investors trust me on a larger multifamily investment, or do I need to build my experience first? What are your thoughts on that?
No, I think you got it going on, Nathan. I think that you've done, because okay, if somebody were to challenge you and say, well, why should I invest with you on a 50-unit deal when all you've done is a 16-unit? Number one, they don't understand real estate, because I can tell you a 16-unit, because we've owned those, behaves pretty similar to a 50-unit, or even to a 198-unit. It's just full of people, and once you know how to manage with people, and once you've got solid leases intact, and once you've got solid contracts as a property manager, you can pretty easily figure out how to manage larger assets. The only thing that changes is staffing. And really big assets start to demand their dedicated people that work for those assets. So like a big apartment complex, 80, 90, 100 units, is going to have a dedicated maintenance person. That's what he does, is maintains that property. And that actually makes it a little easier. So I think, Nathan, I think you've got a ton of street cred in what you've built. And congrats on that, by the way, because 300 units is impressive. And that, so you're well on your way. And I think that I wouldn't self-doubt at all. I think I would actually run it up the flagpole. I would make that your lead in conversations with people on why you are a good investment is because of what you've built. And I would make that something to stand upon.
Okay. I like it. Yeah, Nathan, he's a good guy. We actually had him on the show. He's out in Cody, Wyoming, so he's doing a great job out there, and he's very active in BiggerPockets too. So I'm sure he's connected with people in there too. So
cool.
A nice question we got here from Mike. He said, "Can I combine private lenders, and what is the best way to do this combination?"
Sure. Private lenders. Okay, so I'm going to take Mike's question literally. Okay, because if I were to not do that, I would say if Mike's question was not literal, and because the word that he uses here is lenders, and so if he's talking about private investors combining them, then you can do something called a syndication if you want to put them all into equity. Okay, I know I'm starting to talk real estate guy talk, but to bottom line it. If he's not talking about equity investors that are taking a ownership stake with him, and he's only talking about lenders and people loaning him money, then the easiest way for Mike to do that would be to put people in positions on the property. Meaning, let's say for conversation, Mike is borrowing $300,000 to go and buy and renovate, an apartment complex, right? So he could put his first lender in first position at $100,000, second lender in second position, like a second mortgage you would have on your home, would go behind that first position lender, and then maybe a third position lender as well behind that. So it would just go in hierarchy of getting paid back, and in hierarchy of how much collateral they have on the property, to go first, second, third, and on down from there. That's how he would do it. And stacking the mortgages on the property.
Okay. We got a question here that came from Caitlin, and this will segue into
Hi,
our next
Caitlin.
topic here.
Love the pick, Caitlin.
Caitlin asks, and I believe she's a property manager as well in upstate New York. So she's got a lot of experience managing properties. Are they getting equity in the business, or is this a loan? So I think
either one
about this.
You can do it either way.
Okay.
You can do it either way, Caitlin. You can do it as an equity piece, and that means you're giving away a slice of you're giving away a pound of flesh to that person. The benefit for doing equity is that you don't have to make monthly payments on it. It's just as the business, as I look at each property, collective as a business, really, it's its own animal. So as that business of owning the property starts to be successful, you owe them a chunk of the profit. Whereas a loan, you just owe them a guaranteed interest rate on their money. It's just a flat interest rate that they get. They don't get any of the upside. So there's benefits to both, and you can structure it either way.
Okay. When do you typically use one or the other? Is there certain instances, or is it really all just dependent? Every deal is unique.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So on a loan, I never want to structure a deal with a lender where it's a long-term loan, because if the loan is going to go any longer than 6 months to a year, I might as well just go to a bank and get way cheaper money from a bank, And if let's just say I'm buying a performing apartment building that's already making cash flow, and it's a 10-unit building, I'm going to buy it for $500,000. I would rather raise equity for that, because I don't think I'm going to. You got to find a way to get the lender out, because the lender's money is expensive. So unless I'm going to add a ton of value to that apartment building and then refinance the investor out, if I'm going to do that, then yeah, great, I could do that. But I would rather go on more secure. I'm betting on increasing the value a ton to go that way versus just increasing the value a little bit, and maybe enjoying better cash flow with my investors through that. So loans make sense on buy, fix, and sell. We call them fix and flips. They make sense, a lot of sense there, and they make a lot of sense on buy, perform major renovations, like big value adds, like doubling the value of the property value add kind of thing. And then refinancing to take the investor out. A lot of people in BiggerPockets, they call that the BRRRR strategy. It's kind of a silly name, but it makes sense. So it's buy, renovate, rent out, refinance, is what that stands for.
Okay. We got a question here from Mitchell. I think we covered some of it earlier,
Hey,
but
Mitchell.
he says, how do rates on these loans compare to rates from a mortgage broker, credit union, or typical funding source? So I think we kind of talked about that a little bit, but he said, do they come with limitations or restrictions that conventional loans don't have? Can you speak to the second half of that question?
So they actually come with less limitations or restrictions that conventional loans do have. So I think that they're actually more versatile. And what's great at Mitchell about these types of working with private lenders is everything's negotiable. Like I dare you to walk into a bank and tell them, hey, listen, I'm going to go borrow money from you guys, and I'm not going to pay you any interest for the first 6 months. I'm going to just pay you when the property sells. Did laugh you out the door, but if you're dealing with someone who has an IRA who doesn't necessarily need a monthly check from you, maybe that's something they'd be willing to do for a little more interest on their money. And then that's a great benefit to you. That's just one of the examples on how private money is a lot more negotiable than bank loans would be. Yeah. So I would say the limitations and restrictions are only there that would get put in by your specific lender. There's nothing the government's going to require that you do, or that you're going to have to do just because it's a private loan. It's all up for negotiation, which is one of my favorite things about using private money is it is a person-to-person interaction, and it's about aligning with goals and discussing the terms of the loan over a cup of coffee.
Okay. Speaking of over a cup of coffee, you touch upon it in your book quite a bit. How do you approach the conversation? Like, what's the most important thing if, like, let's say somebody joins BNI and then they got a one-to-one with somebody who says, I've been kind of interested in this. Let's get a cup of coffee. What do you do before that conversation?
By the way, you've done
Hopefully,
BNI. They call them one-to-one. What's that?
We'll give it a few seconds, but as we're seeing if we can get Matt back online here, I do want to pitch his book again.
I'll do this.
That is Raising Private Capital. You
can check it out.
There is a link in this post.
I'm here.
Check it
out
there.
Here.
He is also on BiggerPockets.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
DeRosa Group. If you Google that, DeRosa Group, you can find his website.
Maybe I'll start dancing. Hello.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Matt dropped off, but I think we got some really good information from him today. So if anybody wants to connect with him, you can check him out on BiggerPockets. So, all right. Thanks for your time, Matt, even though you can't hear this right now, maybe. But I can
hear everything you're saying.
Short here, but hopefully
that's so frustrating
in the near future. All right. Take care.